guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. Today I'm going to talk about something that I don't know if I've ever actually told you ever happened. This video is going to be all about that time I dropped out of university. Whoops. I'm a dropout, a failure, a weakling, I gave up. Honestly, I should probably get those phrases printed on a t-shirt. They are spot on my life aesthetic. The year is 2009 and 18-year-old Lucy is going through a pretty weird, pretty intense time in her life. She's at sixth form at school, but she's basically living from Saturday night to Saturday night when she can put on some short shorts, head to a club in Liverpool called the Crazy House and have a very drunk, sweaty night out, probably dancing to Pitbull and drinking a lot of VKs. If you don't know what VKs are, they're usually 2 for 1, but you're not missing very much, trust me, especially the blue ones. So with all of that in mind, it's probably not too surprising to hear that 18-year-old Lucy was not really in any kind of frame of mind to go making big, life-changing decisions. She definitely wasn't in a place to really be thinking about the future, and it probably doesn't take a genius to figure out that any decision really made at that time for 18-year-old Lucy was probably a really bad decision. Like literally everything from the haircut to the H&M outfits to the life aspirations, just all of them bad. Anyway, so it all started back then when I was still on the eternal mission to convince everyone around me that I was very cool and misunderstood. And it was very important to me that I was creatively talented. That was like my thing. As you might have guessed, I have long given up on the task of trying to convince anyone that I am remotely cool. If you guys have been watching me for a little while, you will know that we are well past that now. But as cringy as that is, there was a genuine side to it. Like at that time, I loved my art lessons in sixth form. I was absolutely in my element when I was creating things and letting my creative side out, and that's still very much the case today. Because I love my art lessons so much, I'd absolutely set it in stone in my mind that going down an art career was the only path that I would possibly consider. And somehow I'd plucked out this idea from thin air that I really wanted to work at Pixar, which, let's be honest, would be the absolute dream job, but maybe potentially aiming a little bit high there, 18-year-old Lucy. I mean, I don't know. But what I hadn't realised at the time was that I'd pretty much spent my teenage years living in a total bubble. My art lessons hadn't exactly been art lessons because I went to an all-girls grammar school where the only thing that mattered was academic subjects. Hey, it worked. I came out with 7 A stars, 3 A's for GCSEs, and then 3 A's at A levels, so thumbs up. But the less great part of that was that I'd basically been a basic bitch version of an art student for the entire time that I've been doing art lessons at school. Rather than exploring ideas and trying new techniques and letting my imagination run wild with like undeveloped and unneat thoughts and general messiness, which usually leads to great art, all I really did was draw. And that meant that arriving at art school was a bit like being punched in the face by a big fat charity shop clothes wearing reality check by edgy hipsters. As soon as lessons started, it didn't take very long for me to figure out that I was in way over my head. And I mean like so far above my head. Honestly, I'd say it was maybe only about 3 or 4 weeks into the course before I knew in my gut that I might have made the wrong decision. But that's kind of where it all got very confusing and messy to me, because accepting and admitting to failure is not something that I'm good at. I can't think of anything worse than disappointing the people around me. So guess how I handled things? Yeah, I basically just stopped going to class. I didn't tell anyone around me that I was struggling. I let my workload literally pile up around me. I remember my bedroom just being stacked with things that I had to do, and it seemed impossible and terrifying. And by Christmas, I was not okay. And along with not actually enjoying the course itself, you can also chuck onto the pile that I was really struggling to make any proper friends. I was also unbelievably skint as a student in London, and I was also in a relationship that wasn't even a relationship. So what a hoot! Am I right, ladies? For some reason though, I still didn't want to take the decision to call it quits and leave the course. It felt like giving up, even though I wasn't really doing anything at this point. And actually looking back on it now, admitting that you may have taken a wrong turn, made a mistake, committed to the wrong decision, that is such a brave, big deal to have to do when you're a teenager, when you're trying to prove everybody wrong and that you're this independent person who can do everything right by yourself. In reality, everyone is completely clueless when they take that big first step into the big wide world by themselves. And when I look back on it now, I'm actually really proud of myself that I did make that decision to call it quits in the end. Eventually there was a bit of an incident which kind of made my decision for me and was just kind of the final nail in the coffin for me moving back home. I was assaulted one evening when I was walking up to my ex's student halls, which were literally around the corner. It was literally a 5-minute walk, so it was kind of the worst look ever. The one thing that I regret is that I didn't make that decision sooner and I had to let something awful make the decision for me. But I guess even shit like that happens for a reason, I guess. Even though that happened and pretty much confirmed to me that I wasn't ready to be out living a life on my own that I wasn't particularly enjoying, dropping out of university was still a terrifying decision that I had to make. And if you've maybe searched for this video or you're watching it because you're kind of thinking about dropping out of university and maybe you're realizing that it might have to happen, I totally get it. It feels like everyone is going to be disappointed in you, like you've wasted your time, that the past however many months have just been for nothing. All that crippling debt for no reason, the little space around you that you've created to call home, any friendships or relationships that you've managed to build up, and even the work that you have put in up until this point. It all just feels like a piece of paper that you're just going to crumple into a little ball and chuck over your shoulder and never see again. But when you think about all the stuff that you have to leave behind in this new life that you built for yourself, if you do choose to move on and drop out, it seems crazy to me that it's just assumed in areas like where I'm from, like honestly just assumed that an 18-year-old will be able to build all of that for themselves, have a completely clean success sheet, it will all go to plan, and it won't be a total disaster. I actually think it's probably more normal to assume that it might be a bit of a disaster. And hey, if you do get through it, then thumbs up, but if you don't, no worries, most people have screwed it up anyway. The feeling that you get when you start to realize that you might have screwed things up a little bit is the worst feeling in the world. It's just complete and utter panic, basically, because you have no idea what this means. And for me, it was panic that I squished down into a teeny tiny ball and shoved into the back of my brain. Honestly, one of my biggest talents in life is burying my head in the sand, pretending that everything's fine, when actually I'm about to internally combust through stress and anxiety at any moment. That's honestly, if I was gonna go on Britain's Got Talent, it would be with that. Without a doubt, the worst part of dropping out of university is making that decision for yourself and then having to share that decision with everyone who's so proud of you for going. Admitting to your parents that, hey, you need to come home because things haven't quite worked out. That's not a fun time. It comes with emotional and financial implications just on a very basic level. It's a lot of money that has kind of gone down the drain. And worrying about all of that is so emotionally draining and exhausting. The main question that I remember going through in my head over and over again was, what the hell am I gonna do instead? There is no other option. What the hell am I gonna do? Do you stay in the city that you've moved to and try and keep life as similar as possible? Or do you go back home and get a job and try and make some money instead? Do you start the whole UCAS thing all over again and try and reapply for another course? For a little while, I'll be honest, it will feel like an avalanche of questions that you don't know the answers to. It's like the worst exam in the world. Right, so that's kind of like my experience of coming to the realization that I wanted and kind of needed to drop out. But now comes the all-important magical words of wisdom and advice section. First things first, I'm gonna say, make sure you've given your course enough time to experience it properly. Everyone, and I mean everyone, even the overconfident knobheads that get drunk every night and try it on with you all the time and go to the gym every day and seem to have their shit together, everyone experiences homesickness. But try not to let homesickness be the overwhelming feeling that decides whether you're going to drop out or not, or try not to let it influence it too much anyway. Because rather than being like a super fixed, unhappy situation, homesickness is something that passes over time. And it might not feel like it, and for some people it can go on for a very long time, but time is the best way to kind of get adjusted to a new situation, because that's what you're doing, you're adjusting to a whole new life. But on the flip side, I also think it's important to acknowledge the fact, and it is a fact, that only you know how you're really feeling. And if you know that you're too unhappy to stick with it for any longer, then you have to be honest with yourself. Next up, I'd say if you've given it a little while and you know in your deepest heart of hearts that this is not for you, then you need to talk to someone about it. Something that I've learned since I went through all of this, and now I've grown up a little bit, is that life is too short to be unhappy. And if you are unhappy, change things. You need to take the plunge and talk to someone about it, but opening up about such a personal, and it can be kind of embarrassing thing to talk about, is very, very difficult. So make sure you choose someone that you trust and that can give quite good advice and keep a level head when things are getting a little bit serious. If you don't have a pal or a relative or a great mum that you're happy confiding in, then your university will have people that you can talk to. There's advisors and student welfare people and all those kind of folks that are literally there to help you with things like this. I also wanted to say that it is really, really important to look after your mental health in a situation like this, because it can be so damaging and it can really affect your self-worth, your self-confidence, how you feel about the future. So try and make it a priority to listen to your own instincts and your own mind, because they're usually right. Another important thing to remember is that dropping out of university, I know I've joked about it, but dropping out of university does not make you a failure at all. It just means that you've started walking down the wrong path and you might have to double back a little bit and turn the other way instead. Weirdly, one of the things that I told myself over and over was that if I dropped out of university and then decided that I wanted to kind of start again and go to a different university or do a different course, I was going to be loads older than everybody else on the course. Little worries like that can really influence your decision, but please don't let them. It felt like I was going to fall behind where I was supposed to be in life, if that makes any sense. Freshers are like the most mixed bunch of people that you can possibly come across. People take gap years, people take double gap years, people decide they want to work and earn a bit of money first before they go off to university. And my last words of probably very useless words of wisdom on the whole topic of dropping out of university is that it's really not the end of the world. I know it might feel like it, but trust me, it's really not the end of the world, and it does not have any impact on what is to come for you in the future. It happens every single day to multiple students who feel the exact same feelings, the overwhelming pressure, the gut guilt of being a bit of a failure. Just to put it into perspective a bit, 1 in 10 students drops out in their first year of university, which kind of makes you realise that actually you're not a total freak or a failure for doing this. It just means that, hey, you picked the wrong course, you made the wrong decision. Like, who hasn't done that before? And you're not alone, so don't feel pressured to stay in a situation that you're unhappy in. Making the decision to maybe take a year out and take a step back and think a little bit more about what it is that you actually want to do isn't going to put you miles behind everybody else. In fact, it's probably going to put you in a much stronger position than you're in now. It's actually a really wise and mature decision to make that you should be proud of yourself for. Getting yourself on the wrong course and deciding that you want to take another one, taking a year out, going off to earn some money before you go back to university is really not the worst thing that can happen, and you're actually in a pretty exciting and very kind of like open point in life where you can do whatever you want to do. If you want to know what I did personally, I was lucky enough to be able to move back home. I got pretty much the first job that I could get a hold of. It was just a job in retail. I worked for the rest of the year to earn some money and had a lot of chats with my mum about what was maybe the best thing for me to do. So I dropped out of university in January, and then I was working all the way up until the next September. So I had a good 9 months of just taking some time out to think about my options. Eventually, it didn't take me long to actually realise that my favourite part of the art course that I dropped out of was the segment where we had to write essays. So that was kind of like a poke in the eye and made me realise that actually maybe an English degree would be a better idea. Another thing that was quite helpful was that my first go at university also taught me a lot about the kind of university that I would feel comfortable in. It taught me that I wanted to go to a campus university. I wanted that feeling of safety and security to help me get confident enough to start going out on my own again. And it also showed me that I needed quite a hands-on kind of teaching approach. So really what I kind of considered a massive failure at the time was a huge, really super useful learning experience. I really grew in confidence that I'd lost with the whole kind of like dropping out thing. And maybe most importantly, I ended up on a course that steered me pretty much straight away into a job that I do now that I absolutely love. It's so weird the way that life just works things out for you. That's another thing I'd say. It probably sounds a bit stupid, but I fully 100% believe that you need to trust in the universe and that everything happens for a reason and that things will work out. So I think that's all I have to say on this one. I'm hoping that it was like an uplifting take on dropping out of university. I'm gonna leave a couple of links below as well to some helpful articles, websites, that kind of thing, which will be really handy to have a read of if you are thinking about dropping out. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was kind of helpful or just interesting to hear about. I know you guys like to hear about things that I've done wrong in life. If you did enjoy it, then please do give it a little thumbs up and maybe let's have a chat in the comments. Have you dropped out of university, or did you ever contemplate dropping out of university? Do you wish that you'd ended your course sooner than you did? That might be interesting to chat about. We'll discuss it all in the comments down below. It might also be really helpful as well to maybe have a little read of the comments, see if there's anyone who's struggling, and if you've got any words of wisdom or advice, then we can all help each other out too. If you're new to my channel, then please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Lucy Jane Wood. Please don't worry about everything. Everything will be absolutely fine, and I will see you guys next time with another video. Bye! Mwah.